Kendrick Lamar just watched Drake unload 3 albums in one night, take over Toronto's CN Tower like some movie villain, and spend almost every track on Iceman throwing shots straight at him. The hype jokes, the streaming flexes, the conscious rapper image, the Compton charity talk, even the bot accusations. Every line felt aimed right at K-Dot's neck. And still, Kendrick hasn't said a single thing. No post, no IG story, no surprise verse at midnight, nothing at all. Complete silence. But in hip-hop, that kind of silence hits louder than a diss track, because the last time Drake came this aggressive and Kendrick stayed quiet, the response changed the whole rap game overnight. Kendrick let Drake and Cole keep talking, kept his hands clean, then suddenly dropped Euphoria, Meet the Grams, and Not Like Us back to back to back like a calculated attack. The internet exploded, the culture shifted, and Drake went from being untouchable to becoming one of the most clowned artists in music for months straight. So trust, everybody is watching every move right now because this situation feels way bigger than just another rap feud. Drake released Iceman on May 15, 2026, after building up to this moment for nearly 2 full years. 2 years of legal drama fading away, 2 years of seeing Kendrick win 5 Grammys connected to a diss record aimed at him, and 2 years of watching Kendrick perform Not Like Us at the Super Bowl in front of over 120 million viewers. When the crowd screamed, "Certified pedophile," so loud the stadium shook, the entire moment became one of the wildest and most talked about scenes in rap history. 2 whole years of Drake sitting back while people talked about his legacy like it already belonged in the history books. Folks kept acting like his run was over, like the throne already got taken from him. So when Drake finally stepped back outside, everybody thought, okay, this is it. This is the comeback moment. This is where Drake reminds everybody why he dominated rap for over 15 years. But then Iceman dropped, and Drake was still talking about Kendrick the entire time. Still throwing shots at Kendrick, still circling back to Kendrick, and honestly, that tells you everything about where this battle really stands right now. Because if somebody is still living in your bars this heavily after 2 years, the situation clearly never cooled off. So now we gotta break the whole thing down properly. Every line Drake aimed at K-Dot on Iceman, every slick angle, every hidden jab, every direct hit, all of it. And even bigger than that, we gotta talk about what Kendrick's response actually looks like right now, because trust, the response already happened. A lot of people just missed it completely. To really understand why Iceman feels so personal, you gotta rewind way back. Not to 2024, not to the diss records, not even close. We gotta go back to 2011 when Drake and Kendrick were actually cool with each other, almost like brothers in rap. Back then, Kendrick was the young kid out of Compton, fresh off the XXL freshman list, still grinding for mainstream attention outside the West Coast. Drake saw the talent early and brought Kendrick on to Take Care for Buried Alive interlude in 2011. And this wasn't some tiny background feature either. Kendrick basically got a whole solo moment on one of Drake's biggest albums at the time, which was a massive cosign and showed just how much respect Drake had for him back then. That's how solid the connection was back then. Drake was already running the charts, breaking records, and moving like a global superstar, while Kendrick was the hungry young talent from the West Coast that Drake helped introduce to a bigger audience. For the next couple years, everything looked smooth between them. No public issues, no sneak disses, no weird energy. Just 2 elite rappers rising at the same time and building their own lanes side by side. But then, 2013 changed everything. Kendrick jumped on Big Sean's Control and delivered the verse that shook the entire rap industry. And yeah, he mentioned Drake directly. Not because of personal problems or behind-the-scenes drama, but because Kendrick approaches rap like a full-on competition. He raps like every verse is supposed to leave a permanent mark on the culture. Kendrick called it friendly competition, but Drake never seemed to fully look at it that way. After that verse dropped, the energy between them started feeling different. The tension got subtle, but it was always there if you paid attention. Every interview sounded respectful on the surface, but once people started digging into the lyrics over the years, the little shots and subliminal messages kept stacking up. For almost a decade, the relationship stayed in this weird Cold War space where nobody fully crossed the line publicly, but everybody could feel something brewing underneath. Then 2023 happened, and that's when things really exploded. J. Cole and Drake released First Person Shooter, and Cole casually sparked one of the biggest rap wars in modern history without even realizing it. He grouped himself, Drake, and Kendrick together as the Big Three of rap. 3 giants supposedly standing on equal ground, sharing the crown at the top of the game. But Kendrick clearly didn't see it that way at all. That was the exact moment Kendrick drew a line in the sand. In March 2024, Kendrick Lamar popped up on Future and Metro Boomin's project with the track Like That, and one line instantly shook the entire rap world. When Kendrick said, "Mother Fatah, the big three, it's just big me," everything changed overnight. That wasn't just confidence talking. That was a direct challenge aimed straight at Drake and Cole. And here's what most people didn't realize at the time. Everybody thought Kendrick was just being competitive, just flexing his lyrical dominance like rappers always do. But Kendrick had already made up his mind that this was bigger than a normal rap feud. This wasn't about a few clever bars or social media hype. He approached it like a full campaign to damage Drake's status at the top of hip-hop in front of the whole world. Naturally, Drake fired back. In April 2024, he dropped push-ups, clowning Kendrick's height, questioning his credibility, and throwing slick shots the way Drake usually does when he's in battle mode. Then things escalated even more when Drake released Tailor-Made Freestyle, and that's where the situation got messy fast. The track used AI-generated vocals inspired by Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg to taunt Kendrick, and the reaction was immediate. Tupac's estate reportedly pushed back hard and criticized the move publicly. According to statements at the time, they felt using Tupac's voice in a diss aimed at Kendrick, someone who had openly shown respect to Tupac's influence for years, crossed a line and felt disrespectful to the late artist's legacy. The backlash got so intense that Drake removed the song not long after it dropped. And before the real lyrical war even fully exploded, people were already saying Drake made a huge mistake that couldn't be erased from the conversation. But it didn't stop there. It escalated fast, almost uncontrollably. On April 30th, 2024, Kendrick Lamar dropped Euphoria, a 6-minute, 13-second barrage of pure rapping energy. No hook, no radio-friendly structure, no soft landing at all. Just Kendrick locking in and breaking Drake's entire public image piece by piece. He went after the persona, the industry positioning, and the long-running criticism about Drake's connection to Black culture as a Toronto artist who built global fame while constantly navigating questions about authenticity and identity. The internet went into chaos immediately, but Kendrick still wasn't finished. Just a few days later, on May 3rd, 2024, he released 616 in LA, another sharp diss that kept the pressure building. At that point, Kendrick wasn't just responding, he was controlling the tempo of the entire battle. But Drake responded too, and he came in heavy. On the same day, May 3rd, Drake dropped Family Matters, an 11-minute diss record packed with serious allegations. He questioned Kendrick's personal life, accused him of domestic abuse, and even made claims involving Kendrick's creative circle, specifically suggesting Dave Free had a biological connection to one of Kendrick's children. It was an all-out attempt to shake Kendrick's credibility on every level. For a moment, it looked like Drake had thrown everything he had into the track, the kind of record that, if the claims were ever proven true, could have completely changed public perception. But then came the moment that shifted everything again. Just about 20 minutes later, yes, 20 minutes, Kendrick dropped Meet the Grams. And that's when people realized this wasn't a normal back and forth anymore. It felt premeditated, almost surgical, like Kendrick had already prepared his response before Family Matters even existed. Instead of addressing Drake directly, Kendrick took a much colder and more unusual approach. He wrote the track as if it were a letter to Drake's family. He addressed Drake's parents and delivered accusations that hit at a deeply personal level, including claims tied to sex trafficking and the existence of another alleged hidden child beyond Adonis, who had already been publicly revealed years earlier by Pusha T in 2018. Kendrick was pushing a claim that there was even more hidden beneath the surface, another layer Drake hadn't addressed. Then May 4th, 2024 hit, and everything exploded. Not Like Us dropped, and that one line alone already lives in hip-hop history. Certified lover boy, certified pedophile. People know the lyric, but the full record was something else entirely. 4 minutes of Kendrick snapping over a DJ Mustard beat that didn't just sound like a diss, it sounded like a stadium anthem waiting to happen. The crazy part is how fast it spread. The song wasn't just for rap fans anymore. People who didn't even follow the beef were suddenly streaming it, quoting it, and turning it into memes. It had bounce, it had hooks, it had that chant-like energy that felt built for crowds instead of just headphones. And that's what made it so damaging in context. Drake had built his entire empire on being the most commercially dominant rapper in the game. The hitmaker, the crossover king, the guy who could turn almost anything into a viral moment or a radio smash. But Kendrick flipped that formula on its head and outperformed him on the same commercial playing field. With a diss record, he didn't just go lyrical, he went catchy, viral, and unavoidable. Drake attempted one more response on May 5th, 2024, with The Heart Part 6, where he denied the allegations and suggested his team fed Kendrick false information about a supposed second secret child as a setup, claiming Kendrick ran with misinformation. For a brief moment, maybe a couple days, the conversation was split online. Then Kendrick performed Not Like Us at the Pop-Out show at the Kia Forum in Compton, and it became a defining image of the entire battle. He performed the song 6 separate times in one night, 6 times back-to-back in front of a packed arena. LeBron James was in the crowd. The city energy was electric, and the moment felt like a public verdict being delivered in real time. At that point, the narrative had already shifted hard. Drake had lost in the public eye, not just among fans, but across the entire culture. And then it got reinforced at the highest level of music recognition. At the 67th Annual Grammy Awards in February 2025, Not Like Us didn't just win one category, it cleaned up across the board. Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, and Best Music Video. 5 nominations, 5 wins. A diss track, literally about Drake, standing on stage, winning Song of the Year at the Grammys. That moment alone felt unreal for hip-hop history. And it didn't end there. Just 2 weeks after the Grammys, Kendrick stepped onto the biggest stage in entertainment, Super Bowl 59. The halftime show reached the largest global audience in its history. And when Kendrick performed Not Like Us, the reaction was massive. The crowd shouted the certified line so loudly that it carried through the broadcast, even with censorship in place. Then came another layer people kept talking about. Serena Williams, who had long been rumored in past years to have had a connection with Drake, appeared as a featured dancer during the Super Bowl performance. That visual alone added even more tension to an already explosive moment. One complex music journalist summarized it bluntly, and paraphrasing here, that what Drake experienced in this entire clash with Kendrick was one of the most public and one-sided losses in modern rap beef history. So by the time Drake rolled into Iceman, the landscape had already been set. Between that Super Bowl moment in February 2025 and the release of Iceman in May 2026, Drake kept a relatively low profile in terms of direct lyrical retaliation. He did release a joint project with Party Next Door on Valentine's Day 2025 called Some Sexy Songs For You, but that project wasn't centered on the Kendrick conflict and didn't shift the narrative in any major way. That was Drake retreating into his zone. January 2025, there was a leaked freestyle called Fighting Irish Freestyle, where he addressed the feud and seemed to come at LeBron and UMG, but it was low energy. Hip Hop DX called it empty tough talk. Nobody really moved. Then in January 2025, Drake did something that told you everything about his mindset coming out of the beef. He filed a defamation lawsuit against Universal Music Group, his own label, for the way they promoted Not Like Us. He wasn't suing Kendrick, he was suing the machine. His argument was that UMG had actively pushed a song that falsely accused him of being a pedophile. That label's CEO, Lucien Grange, had publicly celebrated the Grammy win for a track slandering his client, and that all of it was a pressure tactic to leverage contract negotiations. Here's the real tea, though. That lawsuit got dismissed in October 2025. Drake's still appealing, but legally he's 0 for 1 on that front. So going into 2026, Drake had one move left: drop the best music of his life and remind everybody who the hell he was before all of this started. That's what Iceman was supposed to be. The rollout was big. I'll give him that. He did a 4-episode YouTube live stream series building up to the release. Episode 4 was where he previewed lyrics, burned down what appeared to be a bot farm on camera, referencing allegations that Kendrick's streaming numbers for Not Like Us were artificially inflated, and teased bars that the internet immediately decoded as shots at K-Dot. Then he closed the stream with a twist nobody saw coming. Drake revealed he wasn't dropping just one album. He was dropping 3 at midnight. A full 43-track rollout split across Iceman, Maid of Honor, and Habibti. The announcement turned into a full-scale event. He even lit up the CN Tower in Toronto like it was a premiere night for a global takeover. And before the official drop even hit, leaks started circulating online. One track titled 1 a.m. in Albany, a continuation of his timestamp-style records, surfaced early. On it, Drake fired shots at Kendrick's height, comparing him to Muggsy Bogues. He also took aim at LeBron and even Dr. Dre, turning the record into a wide-ranging diss session where almost nobody in rap history felt safe. At that point, the whole culture was locked in. Then Iceman finally dropped, and the Kendrick disses were scattered across multiple tracks instead of being confined to one straight battle record. You had to piece it together to see the full angle Drake was aiming for. On Make Them Pay, Drake spits, "Damn, who is this guy for real? I guess a magician. 100 million streams vanished. No one got questions for nuts." The magician line ties back to the streaming controversy Drake raised during his UMG lawsuit. The idea that Not Like Us may have had inflated numbers that disappeared once scrutiny increased. Drake is basically trying to plant doubt about whether Kendrick's win was fully organic or boosted behind the scenes. Same track, he doubles down with, "And now they got a new GOAT and we gotta test the position." That line connects directly back to Kendrick's Like That verse and the Big 3/just Big Me moment. Drake is reframing it as a challenge to Kendrick's claimed throne, basically saying the crown still has to be proven, not declared. Come defend it! Second shot shows up on Dust, where Drake raps, "What was the year you said you had slaps? 'Cause I don't remember it going like that. I don't remember one word of your raps." It's intentionally dismissive. Drake is basically trying to strip Kendrick's catalog down to nothing and frame him as someone who only shows up when it's time for battle rap energy, not someone with lasting replay value. It's a petty angle, and that's exactly why it stands out. Coming from an artist who just took a historic L to a diss track that dominated awards season, it's the kind of line people were always going to question, but Drake still doubled down. Third shot hits across multiple records. The height jokes. The Muggsy Bogues reference on 1 a.m. in Albany goes, "Muggsy Bogues dunked for once. Even I'm a bit amazed. Someone give the kid a raise." Muggsy Bogues, the shortest player in NBA history, is being used as the comparison point for Kendrick's height. Drake is basically mocking him while pretending to be impressed that he can even land punches at all. And this isn't even new territory. Drake was already leaning into height jokes back on push-ups in 2024. So bringing it back in 2026 shows he never really left that angle behind. Fourth shot is where it gets more layered. During the live stream rollout, Drake previewed a bar aimed at Kendrick's public image as a socially conscious artist. "White kids listen to you because they feel some guilt, and that's how your soul get fulfilled. Handing out turkeys on camera inside of your hood, then you go back to the hills." The line attacks Kendrick's authenticity, framing his philanthropy and cultural messaging as performance rather than sincerity, and suggesting there's a disconnect between where he comes from and where he chooses to live now. Let me say that again. White kids listen to you because they feel some guilt. Drake is directly going after Kendrick's image as a cultural voice. He's arguing that Kendrick's audience is largely made up of guilty white liberals rather than the black community Kendrick often speaks for, and that the charity moments, like handing out turkeys and showing up in Compton, are more performative than genuine connection. It's a targeted bar, no question. It's aimed at the foundation of Kendrick's identity in rap: credibility, authenticity, and cultural authority. But here's where it gets complicated. Drake pointing at Kendrick's audience demographics is a bold angle, but it also opens him up to backlash. Because Drake, a mixed-race Canadian artist who built massive parts of his early career leaning into Southern black musical aesthetics, has long had his own conversations around authenticity. That contradiction didn't go unnoticed. The internet caught it immediately, and the response was basically, you can't critique someone else's cultural positioning while your own has been debated for years. Then comes the owl reference. On 1 a.m. in Albany, Drake raps, "The owl never sees the cage. The owl only wakes up to seize the day." This ties directly into Kendrick's Not Like Us visuals, where a caged owl symbolized Drake being trapped or defeated. Drake is trying to flip that imagery, reframing the owl as something powerful and free rather than confined. The issue is, it unintentionally keeps the original image alive in people's heads. Next, another line. "I'm fighting the man, not suing a rapper," from Bees on the Table. This is Drake positioning himself as someone challenging a larger system rather than just engaging in a personal rap feud. Drake addressing the lawsuit criticism. A lot of people said filing the case against UMG instead of directly responding to Kendrick was a soft move, more of a legal strategy than a hip-hop answer in the booth. Drake's framing is that he isn't chasing an artist, He's challenging the system behind the music industry itself. He's positioning it as a fight with the institution, not a personal rap exchange with Kendrick. Whether that explanation actually convinces anyone depends entirely on how you view it. Then come the West Coast disses. On Too Hard for the Radio, Drake raps over a West Coast-inspired sound and brings up Oakland, suggesting people out there still rock with him, almost as if he's trying to blur Kendrick's regional stronghold. It's a subtle attempt to destabilize the idea that Kendrick fully owns West Coast loyalty. He also targets Mustard directly. Mustard heard about us. Gotta catch up to the slaps. You ain't had one since me and YG rapped. That line is Drake taking aim at Kendrick's collaborator, implying Mustard hasn't had major success since working in the Drake-era spotlight, and by extension, questioning the impact of the team behind Kendrick's biggest diss record. So now everything is on the table. Every bar across 3 albums, 43 tracks, and multiple angles aimed at Kendrick Lamar. And the question everyone in hip-hop is asking right now, from online commentators to barbershops in both Toronto and Compton, is simple. Did it actually work? From a pure technical standpoint, a lot of listeners agree Drake is rapping at a high level here. The pen is sharper, the delivery is more focused, and there's a clear sense of urgency that wasn't always present in his recent work. As a performance, it's arguably one of his stronger stretches in years. But this battle was never just about lyrical ability. It's about narrative. And right now, the narrative surrounding Drake and Kendrick is still heavily tilted in Kendrick's favor, meaning even well-executed bars struggle to fully shift the broader perception that's already been locked in over the past year. Think about the timeline. Drake comes out after 2 full years, drops 43 songs, and a massive portion of the main project is still locked on Kendrick Lamar, on what Kendrick did to him, on streams that supposedly vanished, on bots, on the lawsuit, on the owl, on the hype, on GNX, the West Coast wave, and even the whole conscious rap image surrounding it all. Every single one of those bars circles right back to the same beef Drake publicly lost. When you're the one who won, you usually move on and stop replaying the fight. When you're the one still feeling it, you keep reopening the story. And that's exactly what people are pointing out right now. Kendrick hasn't posted, hasn't responded, and hasn't acknowledged Iceman in any official way. Before the album even dropped, things got even weirder. Kendrick's videos for Not Like Us and Luther briefly vanished from YouTube, like they just disappeared for a few hours before coming back online. The internet went into full detective mode trying to figure out if it was a message, a takedown, or just a glitch. Then rumors started spreading that Kendrick was about to drop a response project called Fireman. That rumor blew up fast, even though it turned out to be completely fake. But the fact that people believed it for even a moment says everything. The hype for Kendrick to respond is so intense that the internet started creating the response on its own before anything even happened. That kind of anticipation doesn't come from nowhere. It builds when the culture feels like something unfinished is still hanging in the air. That's leverage right there. Kendrick hasn't said a single word, and somehow Drake's entire camp is already watching the air, waiting for a response that hasn't even landed yet. Now here's what people keep missing when they treat this like a simple back-and-forth rap battle over who dropped the better diss. Kendrick Lamar's response to Drake on Iceman is not coming, at least not in the way Drake needs it to come. And that distinction is everything here. So pay attention, because this is the core of the entire breakdown. Kendrick already won, and the win was so complete that responding with another diss track would actually shrink the impact of what he already accomplished. Think about what happened. He walked away with 5 Grammys. He performed at the Super Bowl. He dropped GNX, an album that didn't even need to mention Drake by name because the point was already made through presence, not repetition. It was Kendrick flexing pure artistry and cementing legacy in the post-beef era without chasing the conversation. Then he went on a massive world tour while Drake was dealing with lawsuits, live stream rollouts, and teasing projects still orbiting the same conflict. From early 2025 onward, Kendrick's strategy has been to treat the entire beef like it already reached its final chapter. And that's what makes this so devastating for Drake's narrative. Because Iceman only stays alive in the way Drake wants if Kendrick responds. If Kendrick drops a diss, it reopens the storyline. It gives Drake another round, another headline, another chance to stay in the same arena as K-Dot. But if Kendrick stays silent, then Drake is effectively performing into a void, talking at someone who has already exited the conversation entirely. In that framing, Drake becomes the one still standing in the ring, calling out an opponent who isn't even in the building anymore. Look at the receipts. Post-beef, Kendrick's Not Like Us turned into one of the most streamed rap songs in Spotify history. GNX debuted at #1. The tour sold out arenas all around the world. And suddenly, the culture wasn't debating Kendrick anymore. It was validating him in real time through numbers, awards, and institutional recognition all hitting at once like a wave. Then Drake drops Iceman, his comeback, his statement, his reset button on the whole narrative. But instead of the conversation shifting back to him, everything keeps looping right back to Kendrick. Not Drake's new era, not Drake's new sound, just Kendrick. Again and again, even coming off Drake's own release, the discussion stays locked on how he's reacting to what Kendrick did. That's not controlling the story. That's the story controlling you. Let's keep it 100. Drake is talented. Nobody's rewriting that history. Take care, nothing was the same. If you're reading this, it's too late. Views. That 2010 to 2018 run is undeniable. Top-tier, era-defining music. Even parts of Iceman still sound like peak Drake, showing flashes of that old dominance. But here's where the tension shows. The hype jokes about Kendrick, that's been running since push-ups in 2024. The streaming and bot talk, the lawsuit got dismissed, and none of it was proven in court. The conscious rap critique, Drake questioning Kendrick's audience and message. It doesn't really stick the way it's intended to, especially coming from Drake's own complicated relationship with cultural authenticity discussions over the years. So the problem isn't that Drake isn't rapping well. The problem is that the angles he's using are still tied to a battle the culture already stamped as finished. And when every shot still has to reference the past to make sense in the present, it stops feeling like a takeover and starts feeling like a replay. And the owl reference, that's Kendrick's symbol, not Drake's. Kendrick planted that imagery in the culture first, and Drake bringing it up again just keeps it circulating instead of killing it off. Every bar Drake throws on Iceman at Kendrick, Kendrick has already answered, but not with another diss track, with real-world impact and moves that shifted the entire conversation. The Grammys already answered the "nobody asked about your raps" angle before Drake even finished the thought. The Super Bowl performance answered whether Kendrick's music actually hits on a global cultural level, not just in rap spaces. GNX answered whether Kendrick could step out of the beef and still deliver elite-level music without relying on Drake as fuel. And the world tour is answering the demand question in real time. People are still buying into Kendrick at scale, arenas full every night. So when Drake says 100 million streams vanished, no one got questions, the response is 5 Grammy wins and a Super Bowl stage that had the entire world watching. When Drake says, "I don't remember one word of your raps," the counter is a global audience of over 100 million people seeing those same raps performed live on the biggest stage in American entertainment. You can't really out-rap outcomes with more bars. That's not how this works in a post-beef landscape. So where does this actually go next? If Kendrick responds to Iceman directly, then 2 things happen immediately. 1, the beef gets revived on Drake's terms again, which gives Iceman more weight and keeps Drake locked into the same storyline. 2, Kendrick now has to try and top Not Like Us, Euphoria, and Meet the Grams all at once in one response, which is basically an impossible ceiling to clear without resetting the whole culture again. That bar already exists. He said it himself. Anything less than that level of impact starts getting interpreted as him slipping. And that's the pressure built into the whole situation. But if Kendrick stays silent, Drake is stuck holding something even worse. The reality that his most anticipated project in years, his big comeback moment, his "I'm about to reset everything" rollout, ends up generating less cultural energy than Kendrick not responding at all. The Fireman rumor, a completely made-up album that never existed, was still pulling more attention online than entire sections of Iceman. That alone says a lot about where the attention actually is. And here's the real read on it. Kendrick's response might already be happening, just not in the form people expect. Not a diss track, not a rebuttal, not a direct reply. It's silence. It's non-engagement. It's the decision not to treat Iceman like a moment that needs correcting. Meanwhile, the culture keeps watching Drake reference him over and over again across a 43-track rollout, while Kendrick is either on tour or in the studio doing exactly what he signaled at the Super Bowl. Moving forward, not backward, shaping the next phase instead of revisiting the last one. The last public moment Kendrick directly addressed anything related to Drake before Iceman dropped was on waxed-out murals from GNX, and even then it wasn't a direct shot. He wasn't naming Drake or chasing revenge. He was talking about legacy, his position in hip-hop history, and what the entire conflict revealed about the culture itself. Not personal retaliation, more like reflection and direction. That's not a man reopening a chapter. That's someone who already shut the book and moved on. And Drake just wrote another letter to somebody who already stopped checking the mailbox. Y'all tell me in the comments. Do you think Kendrick responds to Iceman, or does he stay silent and let the culture speak for him? So is Drake's approach on this album a real move, or is he digging himself into a deeper hole? Because the conversation is not over, not even close. The streets are watching, the culture is watching, and every silence makes it louder. That's the real situation. No cap. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time because this story is still unfolding. Iceman just dropped yesterday, and we're still in the first 48 hours of the wave. The next response, if it comes, will shift everything, and we'll break it down right here first. Like, subscribe, drop your thoughts, and stay locked in. No matter what drops next, the reaction will matter just as much as the music. At this point, it's not just about tracks or reactions, it's about who controls the story after the music stops. That's what everyone is really debating right now. Everything else is just noise around that question.